Welcome into Steelers Latest, your daily spot for all news and information related to your Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's hop right into things here as I adjust my mic a little bit. But let's keep this going. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content and to stay up to date with everything Steelers. But moving in to our show today, Ryan Clark on ESPN, uh, he was talking about how he thinks Mike Tomlin's voice has run stale in Pittsburgh and how he should step away from the team and make that decision himself. That was something he was very clear on, that Mike Tomlin is not a coach you can fire. This is a decision that should come from Mike Tomlin and no one else, which I agree with completely. Can't get rid of Mike Tomlin. He's too good of a head coach. He's the only reason we've had winning seasons, I think, over the past 4 or 5 years. If you were to ask me, remember that year with when Ben was still in the league, but he got hurt against Seattle, and then we had Hodges quarterback for I think 6 weeks that season, and I think we were above 500 when Duck Hodges was the starting quarterback. It's all because of Mike Tomlin's coaching, and it's shown the past 4 years, ever since Ben's retired. Tomlin's been on his coaching brilliance. I know a lot of fans out there want to see Tomlin gone, want a new era in Pittsburgh. I don't know why. I think it's just a fan's reaction to try to find a quick solution. I don't think firing Tomlin is anywhere near a solution to any of our problems at all, truly. But if we were to get rid of him, if he is to step away, this is how I prefer the Steelers to handle it. If the plans for Tomlin to go, if we struggle next year, if we have a losing season next year, and it's time for Tomlin to go, my idea would be kind of like a John Gruden scenario that happened in the 90s. You trade Tomlin to move up in the draft to secure your QB of the future in Archie Manning. That's the only way getting rid of Tomlin would make me not furious. I would still be heated on a certain level because that's my coach. He's been the coach my whole life watching the Steelers. Since I've been a fan of football, it's been Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. He's actually like one of the few people left from my childhood of like just even players to coaches. It's Tomlin and Harbaugh are the two that have held on throughout my childhood into my young adult life. So no matter when Tomlin leaves, I might shed a tear that day. I know a lot of people out there are over Tomlin. I've seen it in the comments. I've seen comments of mediocre Mike. We're gonna go 9-8, 10-7. That's all he can do. No playoff wins. He's proven he can win in playoff games a long time ago. I know it's a long time ago now to us Steelers fans, but I think the team, we just got to find the quarterback, and Tomlin's success will continue. But if we do, if the plan is for eventually Tomlin to go after next season, I hope it's for from a trade, so we get something in return for one of the best coaches in the league. Because no matter what, I don't think there's 5 coaches better than Tomlin in the league right now. Let me think of a list real quick. You could say Andy Reid without a doubt. You could say maybe Dan Campbell at this point. I think he's proven that he's a really well-rounded coach. I think you could possibly say Mike Vrabel up in New England. That's the only other person I can think of right now. Uh, I think Tomlin's better than people like Shanahan, like Mike Payton. I just, I don't know. I see if we get rid of Tomlin, no matter who comes in, most likely, it's not going to be a top tier coaching candidate. So it's just going to be a downgrade. I don't know why so many people want to get rid of him. Maybe the message has run stale, like Ryan Clark just said, but I don't know. It's hard not to get fired up anytime I hear Tomlin speak, and I'm sure the players feel the same way about that. But let's move on to ceiling and the floor of next year. How good or how bad could it be? I talked about the schedule release yesterday on that episode of Steelers Latest. Let me bust out my schedule one more time that I wrote down just so I can clearly have everything set out for us. But I said we would go 9-8 yesterday in total. That was my complete breakdown of the schedule. But how bad could it be? Let's start there. The floor have us at 5-12 with our only wins being in week 1 against the Jets, week 3 against the Patriots, week 9 against the Colts, and week 6 and 17 against the Browns. And those are my secure wins this year, in my opinion, just because all of those teams have questions at quarterback, like us. I think our roster overall is better than most of those teams besides the quarterback room, all of those teams and us have big question marks in the quarterback room. Now, Aaron Rodgers joins. I still think the question marks are there for us, but I think we're clearly better in the quarterback room than those 4 teams. So I could see a 5-12 season for us. That means I added losses to Seattle, the Vikings, I think the Packer, no, uh, Seattle, the Bengals again, and the Dolphins. So that that would be brutal. 5-12. We haven't seen a season like that in I think 20 plus years at this point. So let's avoid that at all costs. I don't think it's going to be a 5-12 year, like I said yesterday, 9-8. But what's the ceiling now? Uh, 13-4 is where I have our ceiling being. If everything went perfectly, I only have us at 13-4. I know only 13-4, but with other teams, if things go perfectly, it's like they could be 16-1, 17-0, like the Chiefs. But let's take a look at the games I added a win in. The wins I added were the Packers in week 8 on Sunday Night Football. I added the Chargers to be a win on Sunday Night Football in week 10. The Bears in week 12 and the Ravens at home in the final week are the wins I added to make us from that 9-8 total I had yesterday to 13-4. If you want to see a complete breakdown, click on yesterday's video so this makes a little bit more sense on where these wins are being added and where the losses are being dropped. So, and this best case scenario only happens if Rodgers signs and he's able to rewind that clock just a little bit. Doesn't need to be MVP form, but he needs to have 30 plus touchdown form to get us to that 13 win mark, in my opinion. Or Mason Rudolph has to significantly improve from his whole career to this year. Like everything else has been pretty mediocre to subpar for Mason Rudolph. Now, if he's able to somehow out of nowhere, the weapons of DK Metcalf and Roman Wilson, Robert Woods, Calvin Austin III, Pat Fryermuth, maybe Darnell Washington a little bit more. Maybe he's able to get that pass game open up a little bit more with Mason Rudolph somehow. And he's able to somehow squeak out wins against these 4 teams that I was talking about. I think no matter what the quarterback is, I'm sticking with that 9-8 record. Check out yesterday's video, see the whole breakdown of the schedule. But let's move on to our position groups. We've been talking about them for the past couple days. Now to maybe 2 of our better rooms, maybe 2 of our better position groups, more well-rounded position groups. The tight end room. We got a clear tight end one. Pat Fryermuth. You know who he is. You hear the names ring through the stadium every time he catches a ball. 65 receptions last year for 653 yards and 7 touchdowns. I still think the production could be up for Pat Fryermuth. I think he's really one of the best tight ends in the league, and we just don't use him properly enough because I don't know. It just seems like the past couple years, it's like kind of shocking how few targets he gets in some games. I think at tight end, you should begin like 6 to 9 receptions per or targets per game, not receptions. Hopefully, you catch all your targets, but at least that amount of targets per game. I'd like to see the number of targets go up for him again. He only has 1 year close to 100 targets in a season. I'd like to see us get closer to that 100 target mark once again. He's also, I think this is the year he's really due. I've been saying it the past couple of years, though. He should be the tight end should be the quarterback's best friend. We have question marks all around the quarterback position. They should be dumping it down to Pat Fryermuth every time they don't see like their first read or their second read. I think Pat Fryermuth should be way more involved on this offense than he has been in previous years. I just hope Arthur Smith can steam it up properly this year to get him involved. Now let's talk about Darnell Washington, our number two. Great blocking tight end, of course. Big body at tight end, of course. I'd like to see him used more in the red zone. We didn't seem to have packages too much last year where we would try to throw him a fade route or something. Like he's the biggest man on the field. I don't get why we don't use Darnell Washington in that way. In the first two seasons he had, only last year, he had 19 receptions for 200 yards and one touchdown. Very mediocre numbers for a number two tight end. I think all of those numbers could go up and should go up if it was me trying to coach. Because once again, I think he could be a lethal weapon in the red zone, but it just doesn't seem like we like using him that way. We seem to tend to only use him in run plays or run rush downs just because he is such a solid blocker at that tight end position. The final two tight ends, of course, you got Connor Hayward, not Cam Hayward, threw me off, saw the Hayward last name. Remembered the good one. You always kind of forget about the bad one. But Connor Hayward and Donald Parham Jr. If it was me, I'd have Parham at the 3 spot. I don't really think Cam Hayward or Connor Hayward provided much in the tight end room his whole career here in Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, he's a smaller build for a tight end. He doesn't seem to create too much space running his routes. He just struggles when he's on the field, I feel like. I'd love to see more of Donald Parham because, once again, he's another big body, another guy you could have red zone packages for. You could have even 3 tight end sets with Muth, Washington, and Parham all out there at the same time. I'd love to see that, but probably won't because Arthur Smith can sometimes be stupid. Let's wrap up this show with clearly the best position group, though, out there. And clearly, you see the future and the present in this position group. The present being TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, the outside linebacker position. We know what they bring to the table. They're one of the best duos in the league, if not the best. I may be a little biased, but I like to say they're the best pass rush duo in the league, even if the stats didn't really point to it last year. But Highsmith was hurt a little bit. TJ Watt, he sometimes went down in the middle of games. We know what they bring to the table, though. TJ Watt's a generational talent. Alex Highsmith on the other side, whoever's on the other side of TJ Watt's going to do well. Alex Highsmith has overachieved really on the other side of TJ Watt his whole career. Last year, kind of struggled a little bit with the injury. But now, let's talk about the future of this room. You got Nick Herbig and Jack Sawyer. Nick Herbig was filling in for Highsmith last year, showed some tremendous flashes. Just remember that Cincinnati game in Cincinnati where with the strip sack, and I think he had 2 or 3 sacks that game. Those are the highlights of Herbig's career right now. I'd love to see him get more playing time. I think he will. And Jack Sawyer has been reported to be the Energizer Bunny out at practice, at rookie minicamp. Hopefully that translates onto the field. I think it will pretty well. He seems to be a grinder. He has that grinder mentality, first man in, last man out mentality. That's what you like to see. So, and both Herbig and Sawyer have the luxury of learning under two just constant professionals in TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. Not those two don't fear their positions being taken by the next generation. Those two are willing to coach up the next generation of talent for the Steelers. But that has been Steelers Latest. I've been your host, Cole Denis, and I will see you Monday.